We don't create to be famous. We don't even create to be understood. After reading about famous filmmakers and writers and artists I admire the most and matching them against my own path, I found that the drive is much deeper. It's primal. And I found there are 6 truths about why we really do this. And if you're trying to reinvent yourself, if you're trying to find your voice, you need to hear them. Truth 1 is the surface. We create because we refuse to accept the surface. Most of the world is sleepwalking. We live on autopilot. We wake up, we scroll, we work, we sleep, repeat. It's a script written by someone else. But if you are a creator, you have this irritation, this nagging sense of the surface level of reality isn't the whole story. Werner Herzog talks about this constantly. He differentiated between the accountant's truth and the ecstatic truth. In the accountant's truth, those are just facts. It's not raining. It's Tuesday. I'm in Mexico. But the ecstatic truth is what lies behind that. The mysterious, overwhelming feeling of being alive on a beautiful day, on a Tuesday in a foreign land. In Hollywood, we're obsessed with the accountant's truth. Does the continuity match? Is the lighting logic correct? But art, it's not logic. It's not about it at all. When I'm taking photos of a landscape, I'm not trying to map out the terrain. I'm hunting for that ecstatic truth. I'm trying to see the poetry in the geography. So ask yourself before you start your next project, are you just recording reality, or are you trying to reveal the hidden layer underneath it? Van Gogh didn't paint the night sky the way a camera sees it. He painted it the way it felt to him. And that's your job, to show us the world that we can't see with our own eyes. Truth 2, taming chaos. We create to tame the chaos. Let's be honest, life is terrifyingly random. Science tells us we're just atoms colliding in a void. And society tells us that that success is about accumulation. But experience teaches us that all things fail. They all come apart. Careers end. Plans fall apart. The great writer Joan Didion famously said, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live." And what she meant was that we impose a narrative line upon desperate images to make sense of the chaos. When I look back at the last year of my life, the separation, the move, the uncertainty, it feels like a storm. It's noise. But when I sit down to write my journal, or when I wander new lands with my camera, I become the architect. I get to decide where the scene begins and where it ends. Artists are the meaning makers. We look at the chaos of a breakup, or a midlife transition, or a tragedy, and we force it into a shape that makes sense. We turn pain into a plot point. We turn grief into a color palette. That's why you feel better after you create. It's not just expression, it's order. And you're looking at a chaotic universe and saying, this matters because I say it matters. All right, truth 3, the rewrite. Art is a rewrite. The world loves to hand you a script. And for years, my script was Hollywood production designer, art director. Now I'm writing a new script. And the truth is that we honestly create to reject the script that's given to us. We create to rewrite our own character arcs. Look at Guillermo del Toro. He grew up with an obsession of monsters. The world told him that monsters were the villains, that they were ugly, that they were to be feared. But he rejected that story, and he wrote movies where the monsters were the heroes, the lovers, the saints. He rewrote the definition of beauty to fit his own soul. Kind of like creating this channel, the culture of reinvention. It's a part of my rewrite. I'm taking the narrative of starting over and turning it into an adventure instead of a tragedy. And I challenge you to do the same. Pick a label that someone slapped on you, and that you're too old, or too weird, or too quiet, or whatever it was, and go make something. Make a video, make a painting, make a song. Make a song that proves that that label is a lie. Art isn't just self-expression, it's self-definition. All right, truth 4, rebelling against time. We create to rebel against time. There's a battle we're all fighting every day, every single day, and we are all losing it. And that's the battle against time. Time's a thief. It steals everything. It steals the sound of your parents' voices. It steals the specific feeling of a summer night when you were 17 years old. It steals the memory of who you were just yesterday. The Russian director, Andrei Tarkovsky, didn't call filmmaking entertainment. He called it sculpting in time. And he believed that a director's job was to take a block of marble or a block of time and treat it like marble and carve away everything that was not essential, preserving a moment in time. I feel this acutely on this trip. I see my daughter laughing at dinner, or I see a shadow hitting an old wall. I have this desperate urge to capture it, to photograph it, to write it down. Why? Because if I don't, it's gone. When you create art, you're building artifacts. You're preserving evidence that you were here, that you love someone, that you saw something beautiful. And every time you hit record, every time you save a file, you're telling time, you can't have this moment, man. This moment is mine. Truth 5. Truth 5 is time travel. Art is time travel. Sounds like science fiction, but it's not. It's real. Stephen King wrote in his book on writing, and he described writing as pure telepathy and time travel. He says, I'm writing in 1999, and if you're reading this in the future, we're connected across time. I made this children's series years ago called My Magical World. When I look back at that show, I'm having a conversation with the man I was 20 years ago. He's reminding me of what I used to be. And strangely, that past version of me is comforting the present version of me. And when I make these videos, for instance, I'm documenting my journey into the mountains and back to the Dakotas. I'm leaving breadcrumbs for the future. I'm speaking to the 80-year-old version of myself. I'm telling him, don't forget how brave you were to leave. Don't forget how the air smelled. Art is the bridge between the versions of yourself. It connects the child you were, the adult you are, and the elder you will become. Without art, those versions of you remain strangers. With art, they sit at the same table. All right, truth 6. The act is sacred. The most important truth, we don't create for the product. We create for the process. There's something that happens when you're deep in the work. You know that feeling, you lose track of time, you forget to eat, your anxieties just totally disappear. Rick Rubin talks about this as tuning in, and he says that the artist is just an antenna for the source. And when I'm working on a complex project, for instance, I'm trying to get the design layout just as I have it in my head, and I finally crack the code. It's not just satisfaction. It's like this spiritual experience. It's a flow state, and it's presence. And in a world that's constantly screaming for our attention, constantly trying to distract us, the act of creation is the only time we're truly home. It doesn't matter if you're using oil paints or Crayola crayons. It doesn't matter if you're using a film camera or a digital one. The tools change, sure, but the sacredness of the focus, it remains the same. So if you're sitting there and you're waiting for permission to start, stop waiting. You don't need a studio. You don't need a green light. You don't need an audience of millions. You need to create because your soul requires it. You need to create to find the ecstatic truth, to tame that chaos, to rewrite your story, to sculpt in time, and to travel back to yourself. The world doesn't need more content. We have plenty of content. The world needs more truth tellers. It needs more people brave enough to shut out the noise and listen to that voice inside of you. It needs you. So get to work. Until next time.